What's up, Nova Heads? It's Amber Nova.
This is Chris Lights Out Lytle.
This is Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ice Boogie.
It's the real and raw. Always starts off.
This is Smiling Sam Alvey.
It's Archimedes.
I'm Jack Cartwheel, the real deal, the human highlight reel.
This is Steve Maury.
I'm Victor Henry.
It's ECW Original, The Enforcer, CW Anderson.
This is Honest John.
This is Mr. Classics.
I'm Jason Punet.
The young goats.
It's old Hadapasia.
When I say what's my name, tonight.
My name is Gino Rivera, the Frank Sinatra of the Spanish Mafia.
The incredible one, Anthony Idol.
This is Ken Shamrock.
The Golden Boy, Jordan Clearwater.
Yo, watch and listen.
Championship online.
This is Alex Mars here. Hi, Richard Modest.
So, please listen to it, otherwise be cursed. Okay, see you later. Love that dinner.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're now watching and listening to Championship on the Line podcast with my co-host Rich, and I'm Alex. And today is a very, very special episode. I know I say it every time, but today I really do mean it. It is very, very special. It's the much anticipated episode. I know Rich and I have been wanting him for a very long time, but it's finally here. It's happening right now. And he is the current reigning and defending the West Coast Wrestling Company champion, ladies and gentlemen. And there it is. He has the belt right there. It's the champion is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Ric Ellis.
Isn't it? Beautiful.
It is beautiful. Again, champion, thank you so much. We're doing really well, man.
Thank you very much.
We're doing really well. We're excited to have you here. And again, champion is in the house. We're very happy to have you here and for taking the time to show us. Real quick, Ric, we'd like to do a segment on the show where we will ask you 10 questions about, to get a little bit in your personal side so the fans can get to know you a little bit better. Is that cool we do that for you?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, awesome. First question. What is your favorite movie of all time?
I just watched this last night, Field of Dreams.
Nice.
Yes.
Awesome. That's a good one.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's it.
And do you have a favorite TV show?
I'll say Impractical Jokers.
Nice. Yes. That's mine too.
Forensic Files.
Nice.
Yeah, that's one of my obsessions.
We were just watching that right now before the show.
Jokers, yeah. Awesome. And then with the next one, do you have a favorite music or artist that you like to listen to?
I'm so not current. So, man, still Linkin Park is like that. That was like what I grew up. So I just listen to that all the time. Eminem, because that's what I grew up on as well. So I'll say Eminem is a big influence on my. I do like rap, but I can't tell you nothing current. It's all older stuff. So
it's okay, Ric. It's not that good. I mean, the old stuff is better.
Yeah. So why bother?
You're not missing anything, so you're fine.
Awesome. And then with the next question, sadly, I do know this answer, but what is your favorite sports team? It breaks my heart, but what is your favorite sports team?
San Diego Padres, baby. That's it. That's it. The only team I follow, the only team I care about. That's it.
Yeah. Again, breaks my heart, Ric. It really does.
I understand.
It's okay.
You guys are Dodgers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends that like the Dodgers, so I actually don't dislike the Dodgers the most. It's the Giants I really can't stand.
Okay, we see we have something in common then. We don't like the Giants either. So
absolutely. Yep.
Nice. And then with the next question, I don't know if you're a gamer, Ric, but if you are, what is your favorite video game? Do you have a favorite video game?
I'm gonna age myself, but Max Payne.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I play I think it's an ESPN like baseball, whatever it's called, but it was like from 2005. That's still my favorite baseball game ever because I don't have any current video games. Like I got 3 kids and there's no time for video games right now. So I don't have anything current. It's all like showing my kids the older stuff, like the N64,
which is the best, I think. The older stuff,
2000 and stuff like that. So, can't go wrong with that stuff.
No, absolutely, totally agree with you. And sticking with the next question, do you have like a favorite type of food, favorite meal that you like to eat?
Pizza. That's it. I eat pizza every single day, every day.
It's perfect because Alex and I were just watching Impractical Jokers last night, and then right now in the house we're watching Forensic Files, and we just had pizza like an hour ago.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
perfect timing.
Awesome. And then the next question: do you have a ritual you like to do before you step in the ring?
It's changed a lot over time, but just pretty much just get in my zone. I don't need music. I just kind of need to, get myself kind of calmed down. I get really intense and worked up right before I go out. So I kind of just try to keep myself loose as much as I can. Just kind of visualize how I want the match to go. I always try to get a peek behind the curtain just to see what the fans are reacting to and what can I kind of expect when I go out there. So a million things are going through my mind. I'm supremely jealous of the people that can just go out and they're not thinking about it. It's just, when the music hits, I don't think of anything. I'm thinking of a million different things at a time. So. Hello?
Alex,
Hello?
Are you there?
You there?
Yeah, I'm good. We're good. Yeah. Cool. And then with the next question, if outside of wrestling, is there like a hobby you like to do for fun?
It's just spending as much time with the family as I can, the wife and the 3 kids, and just going to the park. My son has really gotten into baseball. He played t-ball this last season.
Oh, nice.
So it's just, if you go on my Instagram, it's all me throwing pitches to him. That's just getting hit home runs. That's it. And my second son, he's taken to it a lot too. So that's, my hobby is either training, but I treat that as, my job at this point. That's just, I need to be active. I need to be training all the time, and then family time as much as possible.
Awesome. Love that. And with the next final question, if you can have a match that's someone that isn't a wrestler, I'm talking about a celebrity or sports athlete, a character from a TV show or movie, anyone, who would Ric Ellis be in the match with?
That's a really good one. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna say Christian Bale as Batman. Let's do it. Let's do it. He's taking on the Joker. He's taking on Bane. Take on Ric Ellis.
Awesome. I love it.
I love those movies, so that'd be my pick.
How do you see that match going? How do you see yourself winning that match?
You know what? Bane broke his back, so let's target the back. Let's go and then dive and headbutt from whatever top of the building I need to, whatever I got to do to get it done.
Nice. Again, Rick, Rich and I both really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We're very happy to have you on the pod. And one thing we were noticing, looking over your back in your career, you've been wrestling for a very long time. How many years total have you been wrestling?
So I started in 2007. So November 2007 was my first match. And I wrestled pretty much consistently until 2010. Pretty much not every weekend, but I was getting there. And then towards maybe that last year, I was pretty much every weekend. And then 2010, I injured my knee. It was a match with Davey Richards. And basically never the same since then. It's just I kept coming back, taking time off, it was just very frustrating because you say, oh, well, you've wrestled since 2007. But if you look back, I really haven't. I had periods of time where I wrestled, and then a lot of time where I had off. So if you look at my total matches, which is always what you want to do, you want to look at not how long someone's been in the business, but how many matches they've actually accrued in that time. Because if you only wrestle twice a year, but you've wrestled for 20 years, you're still not, you're still new, So it's the totality of the number, not so much the year. So.
Mhm. And take us back, like in the beginning of when you, like, were you a fan growing up as a kid? Was there any wrestlers you liked growing up? Were you a fan growing up as a child?
Yeah, so actually my start in pro wrestling was I went up to visit my grandma and grandpa, and it was the Monday night after Owen Hart passed away at the pay-per-view. And I remember vividly, I mean, I didn't know what wrestling was at that point. I just remember vividly seeing that in loving memory Owen Hart graphic. And I'm like, what is this? And then like my grandma was like obsessed with wrestling. And she always like claimed, oh, this is for grandpa. But it was actually her. Like he would always fall asleep, you know. So, but I used the name Ellis because Ellis is actually my grandpa's name, and so it was kind of a tribute of, well, you know, take my grandpa and grandma who introduced me to it. But anyway, I saw that graphic. I mean, it sucks to say, but I mean, it didn't register because I didn't know who Owen Hart was. I didn't even know what wrestling was, and then it didn't dawn on me until later, the next year. It was around the Royal Rumble 2000, like where Cactus Jack and Triple H wrestled. I believe I started watching maybe the week or two before that event. And my first pay-per-view that I watched was No Way Out 2000, which was Cactus Jack and Triple H in the Hell in a Cell. And from then on, it's just that defined my life, what I was going to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And talking about, you know, when did you actually decide, like, you know, I'm going to go to wrestling school and I'm going to take this serious and I'm going to, you know, go into this business?
So here's the thing. So it's no secret I'm a smaller guy, right? I mean, I'm not 6'5". I'm not running around big booting and fallaway slamming guys. You know what I mean? So I was drawn to the smaller guys like Chris Benoit, especially Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, those types of guys, Kurt Angle. And WrestleMania 20, when Benoit won the heavyweight championship, that's when I knew that I could wrestle. That's when I knew I didn't have to use my size as a disadvantage, like I could do it. The next year at WrestleMania 21, when I watched Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle in that tremendous wrestling match, I remember sitting in the Staples Center and just saying, I absolutely have to wrestle. This is all I need to do. So that was 2005, I believe. And so from that moment on, it was, okay, let's wait till I graduate high school, because my parents were super strict. They're like, you're not training until then. But we were wrestling on trampolines. We were wrestling on garage doors with tires underneath it, with 2x4. Like we had like an old school ring that we set up. In 2006, my dad said, you know what? You guys are going to get hurt doing this. If you're going to do it right. And so he said, go take a loan out, build your credit, and let's buy a ring. So I bought a wrestling ring. So in the backyard, I had a wrestling ring, no formal training whatsoever. Just bought a ring. I knew, I was like, this is it. And I swear to you, you can talk to AJ Wright. AJ Wright knows the history. He was there. We spent 8, 10, 12 hours a day in that ring. I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of bumps. Like a lot of people joke about, you know, their bump card gets expired. That shit was expired within the first like 2 weeks. we were relentless, man. We just trained like madmen, and we didn't even know. And then shortly after that, I think it was maybe 2 months after, in San Diego, New Wave Pro Wrestling was starting a school. So I would train there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from about 6 p.m. to 9 o'clock. Tuesday and Thursday were my days off from work. So we would train from literally 8 in the morning until 9 or 10 at night. And I'm talking about just nonstop, running matches, training, you know, whatever we learned in New Wave, we applied to our training and implemented. So.
And stepping into New Wave, what was the training like over there?
So it's funny because back then I used to post a lot on the message boards on bodybuilding.com. And I actually, if you research it, like I actually have a thread, and it was my journey to be a pro wrestler. And it was like, and reading it now, it comes off very arrogant. It comes off very egotistic, which I did not mean at the time. and I should have made it more clear how difficult it was, because make no mistake, it was. But the fact is that we were used to the bumps. So by the time we got to training, bumping 50 times in a night, that was nothing, you know? So it was just fine tuning, you know what I mean? It was doing certain things, remembering certain things, you know, making sure the holds are right, making perfect example, suplex, you know, in America, and, you know, everything, you're working the left arm, you suplex with the left, you know, you work the left arm. In old videos, we're working the right because we didn't know, you know. You go later and you find out in lucha, they're doing that anyway. So it doesn't matter. You're not that far behind, but you know, it's just stuff like that. You just fine tuning yourself.
And take us back on the first time you actually stepped in the ring and had your first match. What did it feel like to come out of that curtain for the first time? What was that moment like for you?
I remember like it's yesterday. So I trained, I believe it was August 4th, 2007 was my first official training day. And I debuted November 10th, 2007. So 3 months, give or take 4 months, whatever it was. And it was against Ariel Star, who doesn't wrestle anymore. He's on the SoCal. He used to wrestle SoCal Pro, New Wave. He did a couple West Coast Wrestling Company shows back in the day. Great talent, awesome talent. And he was my first opponent. And I had an idea of what I wanted to be. He was a high flyer, very fast paced. And I was trying to be hard hitting, but also like an arrogant prick. And I was trying to find my way. So I was kind of stuck between, okay, well, do I do this fast paced style, or do I do, you know, do I slow it down? And that was a struggle for me. But I remember I requested a day off from work. I remember getting to the downtown YMCA in San Diego and just feeling like no matter what happens, if I shit the bed, if I do well, no matter what happens, like at least tonight I can say I did it. You know, at least I achieved my goal. And I knew that that wasn't it. For something inside me said, this is just the beginning. Right out of the curtain. Again, I said, shit the bed or do well. I mean, it's up to you. Like all the training you've done, I was working full time. I was putting in 3 days with training. Ridiculous. Like I was working out in the ring, like I said, at least 5 times a week, sometimes 6 days. Just ridiculously overtraining myself. But that's the only thing I knew. That's all I know is training, is digging deep and just getting after it pretty much. And so I said, it's up to me now. No one can help me. Once you go out there, all the training, it falls on you. So if you shit the bed, that's on you. If you do well, it's on you, but also your opponent, you know? So it's thankfully going back, the match was the shits. But at the time, I mean, I was like, it's a pretty good debut match, actually. You know, and there's definitely things I would change about it. But that's, you know, knowing what I know now type of thing.
Absolutely. It's kind of like a learning experience, you know.
Exactly. But I have nothing but great things to say about Ariel Star. He was so talented. He should have been. Unfortunately, he didn't go as far as he should have. And that's the case about a lot of guys in Southern California. But thankfully that seems to be changing right now. So
absolutely, totally agree. A lot of the wrestlers are now, you know, the big promotions. A lot of guys are from SoCal, so it's great to see talent from here, you know. And speaking of now, you know, you're now the West Coast Wrestling Company champion. Take us back how you first started in that company, and take us back when you first met Adam Ginsberg.
So Adam Ginsberg, I believe, and I may get the timeline a little mixed up, my second match ever was a show up in Escondido, and they wanted to do a show up in Paris, California that night. And I said, well, I'm already here. I might as well go up there. So we did this show as a little lucha spot show. And they were using Adam's ring from what I recall. But that's not the important part. The important part is after the show, I'm a rookie. You know, chances are you're not getting paid. I don't know if you guys heard the hot dog and a handshake type of thing for wrestling, you know, like you're not getting paid anything, right? So the promoter didn't pay me, and I was fine. I'm just learning. I'm just trying to master my craft at this point, you know. But I remember very vividly Adam Ginsberg reaching in his pocket, and grabbing a $20 bill and saying, "This is for tonight." And I said, "No, I was smart enough to know he wasn't part of the company. You know what I mean? I didn't know him that well, but I knew he wasn't, he was just helping out with the ring." And he said, "No, you absolutely deserve this." He said, "It's not right. You don't get paid." So that's something I'd never ever forgotten. Never. So as long as we've been through our fair shit in the past, but I mean, I've never forgotten that. So that was my initial, pretty much that's my lasting impression of him, pretty much, is doing that. You don't forget things like that, especially when you're new. So.
Wow, that's awesome. That's crazy, but that's so cool too, because like the little things that people remember, and it just sticks forever.
Yep.
And also going back, you first won the title back in, I believe, 2009. You won the first time. What was that feeling like for you to win it?
I always say I wasn't supposed to win it. I'm not the type. Like I said, I'm not a big guy. I'm not a per se heavyweight. I'm usually one of the shortest guys around, but I will outwork you 100% of the time. And I think eventually Adam saw that. I do believe, and this is not a shot in the arm for me, I do believe he saw something in me early on. But again, you have to capitalize on what you have. You can't just rest on your laurels. You have to capitalize on it. You have to put in the work, and you have to make do with what you have. So Devin Sparks, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was pretty much the face of the company, and rightfully so. Wrestling talent, great. On the mic, great. His character is insane. He's insanely talented, but also just underrated like crazy. It's just it sucks. It really does, because there's not much more people that are talented than he is. But he was the champion for a while. We had Chris Evans, who wrestles in Arizona a lot now. So we had those two that were pretty much the guys. And then I think I just pretty much outworked people. I said, my goal was every night I'm going to have the match of the night. There's an old like Dynamite Kid quote, who's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He said, "I didn't care about the best promos. I didn't care about being a character. I cared about 100% being in the ring and being the best wrestler on the card that night." And that's my attitude. And if you look back at my influences, it's Dynamite Kid, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Davey Richards, all these guys. They're not really known promo wise. Kurt Angle is a great character. He's a great persona, but he's a beast in the ring. And that's what I look forward to, that being a beast in the ring, outworking everybody 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, Rich and I, our first time watching wrestle was when you won the title against Gatson. And just telling Richard, I'm like, wow, like just, the work you put into, and, you're very, like you said, talking about those guys like Dynamite Kid, your style kind of resembles that, very technical, very strongman style, which, Rich and I love. And talking about, with, Devin Sparks, you guys were actually a tag team,
Yes.
What was that like, teaming up with him and that experience working with Devin?
It's kind of funny because we're in a tag match here in a couple days, but I generally do not like tag matches. I don't like tag teams. And the fact is, I don't like it, not because I don't enjoy the matches, but I like to be in the match 100% of the time. I like to, if the match is 10 minutes, I want to be in there 12. If the match is 18, I want to be there 20. If it's a tag match, your time is automatically cut in half. And for me, I'm like, you put all this work in and you're in for half the time. And that's very difficult for someone that puts in a lot of work. Not to say the other team doesn't or the other partner doesn't. It's just, that's how I look at it. That's my competitive nature. If I had it my way, I'd wrestle an Ironman match every single day. that would be my pick. Just let me go an hour. Let me do gauntlets. I don't care. I just want to be in the ring. But teaming with Devin was really good because he helped me tremendously with character. AJ Wright, again, he'll attest. I'm quite the character outside the ring. I can make you laugh. I can joke around and be just a freaking idiot. But when I'm in the ring and when I'm doing promos and stuff like that, I envision the Davey Richards, the Chris Benoits, the things like that, guys like that. Dynamite Kid. And it's very hard for me. And as entertaining and as much as I love Ric Flair, which another reason why Rick is spelled R-I-C is because Ric Flair is another huge influence to me. But that's just not my type. I'm not the partying type. I don't go out and party, and I do stay up all night long, but it's because I'm training and working my ass off, not going out and drinking all the time, and no knock on that. That's just not me, so promos like that, as much as I think they're entertaining and they draw people in, they captivate people, I'm not that articulate with my words. I feel like I'm getting there, but I want my work to be shown in the ring first and foremost.
No, absolutely, and it shows too. Every match you put out, it's been great. We love them. We love your matches. And especially like I've seen your posts too, like on Instagram, like you put like 3 a.m, you're working out. You're always training every day.
Yep.
And talking about as I mentioned it, Devin Sparks, you did some for DDT over there in Japan. Yep. How did that come about, going over to DDT? And what was the whole experience like for you working at DDT?
For me, I was reaching out to promoters, and I reached out to, honestly, it was probably 10, 12, 15 promoters. And I reached out to Dragon Gate USA back when, Gabe and all that. And out of all those promotions, and they weren't bigger name promotions, they were just SoCal promotions or, Arizona. Out of all promotions, the only one that reached out was Gabe. And he said, I appreciate you reaching out. We do not have a spot, but I'll keep you in mind. And that motivated me alone, because I said, well, if no one else uses me, at least I'm on the radar.
Yeah.
So I said, what's the harm in asking? And I went back to Devin and I said, listen, for me, it's very simple. Japan is the end goal. And I know for him, he's more, he wanted to be, he grew up on, old school WWF and, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And that was his thing. Whereas I grew up on, the later guys. And then I went back later and watched, the Super J Cup and stuff like that. And I said, okay, well, to be an in-ring worker, you need to go to Japan. That's where they appreciate it. No knock on the American fans, but they don't really appreciate it to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
So, and again, I think it's kind of switching, shows like PWG and stuff like that. They really helped with that, like where you have really badass technical matches, which, hard hitting, it's just very technical, in your face, the strong style, quote unquote. And that's what I love. So I said, Japan is it. Make it or break it. We were getting frustrated with how we were treated out here in Southern California. And we had a chip on our shoulder because I felt honestly, every single show, I had the match of the night. Undisputed. If you go back, unless it was 2 top names, like say a Scorpio Sky versus, Ryan Taylor back, you know what I mean? Unless it was season, but night in, night out, every show, I feel if I wasn't match of the night, I was right there with them. And I said, I need help on my gimmick. I need help on my character, my persona, and that tag team with Devin certainly helped with that. And I said, let's start reaching out to Japan because we're not getting it done here. And I said, once we go to Japan, we'll come back, our stock will rise, and now the people will come calling. You know what I mean? So it was just basically reaching out to them. And actually, we reached out to a couple companies. And DDT, the simple reason we went there is because they had the most dates. We had a 3-week tour in mind. And I said to my job, I have to do this. I need 3 weeks off, unpaid, whatever. I was trying to push it for more time, but that's all I could get. It is what it is. I figured it's my first tour, right? 3 weeks is good. So planned on that. I think they gave us about maybe 5 dates in that 3-week span. I think we added another 1 or 2. And so that was the goal. Japan was in my mind from the beginning. Like I said, I'm not 6'2", 250 pounds. Vince McMahon is not looking at my resume right now. And he damn sure wasn't looking at my resume back then. So I had to go to where I could get noticed. And that's where I felt like I could be noticed.
And what was like the whole like culture side of being in Japan and the crowd too? Because we know the crowd is very different from here. What was it like, psychology wise, working with the crowd and everything in Japan?
It was very different. It's actually cool because I believe they were doing the Super Juniors at that time. So you had guys like Nick Jackson out there from the Young Bucks. You had Rocky Romero, Bobby Fish was out there, Kyle O'Reilly, all these guys that were working the same day as we were. And we had messaged Nick and said, hey, we're in Japan. If you have a moment's time, like, could we take you out to lunch? Could we just talk to you? And we knew him because we had wrestled him before. And so he knew us. So we had that common bond. And I think he took a liking to us as well. I remember he took us out to lunch and a dinner as well. And we talked about the business. We said, okay, what can we do to help ourselves here? What can we do to help ourselves when we get back home? It's fun. I don't know if you guys read the Young Bucks book, but they spoke about how
killing
they
business.
Yeah, an excellent book. Awesome, especially if you're a SoCal fan, because you see and you hear and you know so much of what they're talking. But they talked about speaking with, I believe it was Generico at the time, Sami Zayn, and he was open about like what kind of money you can make and what the business side of wrestling, and that opened up their minds. And I remember Nick telling us, and he was, I think at the time he was either going to WWE or I think he had like 3 offers, and he told us what each offer was. Ballpark, it's fine.
Yeah.
And we weren't asking figures. He was just, letting us know this is what's possible, and he had the same situation, a wife at home. He had, I believe 2 kids at the time, and I had a wife at home that let me go to Japan. For that, I'll always be grateful. But I knew in the back of my head, we were going to be having kids soon. And I said, I need to make this a career. It's either you got to stop doing it for $10 at some point, and especially then, like my body was very, very, very beat down because like I said, it's the overtraining. It's all those bumps. I had countless concussions, countless knee issues, like shoulder dislocation, everything coming to a head. And so just picking Nick Jackson's brain, I remember we even messaged Kenny Omega because we stayed in the same spot that he did for DDT. And so we said, hey, I know you're busy. I'm not expecting you to, show us around, but can you offer us some tips? Can you help? And he was extremely gracious. And again, that's something you never forget. I never met him personally, but he communicated with us in such a way that shows you the type of guy he is. And Nick Jackson as well. That's something I'll never forget.
That's cool, man. That's so awesome to hear that. And, and going, back to now, you, like I said, you won the title back at Nobody Does It Better. You defeated Brandon Gatson. But then again, this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was your first match in a long time, right?
Yeah. So I came back and I did 2 shows in Arizona in 2019. And I think at that point I was out for 5 or 6 years because I wrestled in DDT. We had 3 or 4 bookings and I came home, and on the 7-hour drive home, getting ready to do the 12 or 13-hour flight home, inside I knew that something wasn't right. One of my first matches in Japan, I did my dive to the outside and I completely blacked out. Like I hit my back on the wood floor and I just blacked out. And I knew I've had my fair share of concussions, man. I know what it is. I knew my knee was on borrowed time. And I knew on that flight home, I said, we have all these bookings. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fulfill them because I need to take a step back because it's very, very encompassing. Wrestling consumes you 110%. And especially if you're not in a good mental space at all, wrestling will ruin you. And it has ruined me countless times. And I love it. I love professional wrestling with all my heart, but it will ruin you if you're not in the right mindset. And I knew that I had to get myself right. I knew I had to take care of my wife. I knew I had to, it's the whole put food on the table type of thing. You go to Japan, you kind of, you're at a loss right there automatically. It's your first time out. You're not expecting to get treated like royalty, and we weren't by any means. And that's not their fault. That's just the way the business is. So I came back. I knew I had a lot of work to do, but I also knew I had to work on myself physically and also mentally to get myself back in the ring. So again, that was probably 6 years. I came back to Zealot Pro in Arizona, did 2 shows there. Was very, very disappointed in how my performances were. In the my first match back with Devin Sparks, he hit me with a spine buster. Again, completely out. And I have no recollection. I remember just the drive home, and AJ Wright was with me, Adam was with me, and he was just, in the back seat trying to help me out and make sure I was not falling asleep. But I just don't recall. And it was later, a couple weeks later, I started to piece things together. I could remember the match, but I don't remember anything after the spine buster, And so I said, well, that's not the way I want to go out. So I wrestled Adrian Quest, which is a hell of a talent. He's amazing. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I did my best. So I feel like me and him need a rematch at some point in the future. So that's one of my goals. That's definitely a goal match of mine because I need to make it up to him. That's how I feel. I feel like I need to make it up to him. So then I planned to start, I think WestCoast was running in January. So the next year, so 2020 rather. And then 3 days before the show, I had to go in for emergency gallbladder removal surgery. So training nonstop. I was having these stabbing pains where I just had to lay on the floor and roll around and writhe for about 20 or 30 minutes, and it would finally go away. Well, this time it didn't go away. It just kept at it. So I drove myself to the emergency room, which if you know me at all personally, will never happen. I'm the last one to admit I'm hurt or I need to go to emergency. I don't want to pay that bill. I don't want to pay that. So, but I drove myself there, and they said if you waited any longer, that it would have ruptured or exploded. And that was I think that was 3 days before that show. So I called Adam and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I can't. I can't do it." And I actually remember sitting in the doctor's. They were doing all these tests on my stomach, and the technician lifted my shirt up to put the scanner, and he said, "Whoa, you're pretty tan." And I said, "Yeah, I got a show in 3 days." And I was talking about wrestling. He's like, not in 3 days, you don't." And I was talking to my doctor, the surgeon. I said, "Is there any way that I can postpone this for the next week?" I said, "I've been living with this pain for it was going on for years and I didn't know what it was." And I would just kind of will it away. I mean, my wife always jokes that if I get injured, I just kind of just will it away. I'm just like, it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? But for that, he said, "No, absolutely. We need to do surgery now and get this taken care of." And then I told Adam I would do the next show, whatever you need me to do, a tag match, whatever. I think he planned the show, and then COVID hit and the shutdown. And I said, well, this is another chance for me to take a break. It sucks because I felt like I was just getting my stuff going again. I just had my 3rd kid, our daughter. And I told my wife, I said, once I'll take a little time off when she was born. But after that, I'm going to really push it. And I'm going to try to get this thing going again. And then COVID hit, and then that shut everybody down. And I'm not going to sit here and, woe is me, because it affected a lot of people worse than me for sure. Because I really had one show booked at that point where many people lost a lot of opportunities because of it. A lot of people lost a lot more than that. So I will never complain about that, but it's just a part of my story, just another roadblock, I guess. But I always said, well, when shows open back up, I owe Adam at least one match, So that's where we're at.
Absolutely. And going off, Rich and I were watching the match with Brand Jansen, and it's almost like he never missed a step. It was just, everything was perfect in that match. We love that match. And, when winning it the second time, was it a big difference winning it from the first time compared to winning it now?
Well, it really was, because I kind of expected it the first time around to an extent, because I said, well, they have to give it to me at some point. I mean, I proved myself time and time again, and it's just a matter of time. This time, I had no I don't want to say I don't have a goal because I always have to have a goal in mind. But I said I owe him to come back and at least do a match and at least, make good for a couple things that happened, like, the surgery and everything that happened like that. So not to say that's my fault, but I felt like I have to make it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was much different because I don't know if you know the story, but right after the show, I came out and I, won the title and everything's good. And I turn around and my wife is there with my 3 kids. And to this day, it's still a shock because my wife didn't really come to a lot of shows, and that's not her fault. I just kind of kept it separate. And that's something that I learned I have to do better at, is communicating with her. Like, hey, we have a show. Hey, we have an interview. Hey, we have a promo we got to do. Hey, like, instead of keeping her in the dark. And I do that because I get so focused on it that I don't want it bleeding into our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very difficult to combine those, even though I shouldn't keep them separate. I should be communicating very well with her, but in wrestling, I internalize a lot. And that was one of those things that, I need to learn to do. So for her to be to the show, it is a long drive from San Diego. So for her to take our piece of shit car to drive up there with the 3 kids, because 3 kids by yourself, that's not easy. And she drove up there, and I'm still shocked that that happened. And she was at the last show with the 3 kids. They'll be there Sunday. And it's just a thing that my kids have learned to like. They know that when wrestling's on, YouTube, I don't watch it really present day, but they'll see on YouTube or whatever, when I'm training, I'm watching old matches, stuff that inspires me, and they'll see and they're like, oh, that's what daddy does now. So that alone makes it a lot different. It's not for selfish reasons. I want to make it because to help them, not so much to carve my own path and legacy like it was before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then, Rich and I watching that moment, because we were there watching you win the title and you see your kids there, and it was, emotional and also amazing to see, the hard work you put into. And then with now, how are you enjoying the run now as now you're the champion and working with AJ Wright again and also working with Eric Cross? How are you enjoying the run?
Yeah, so Eric Cross is somebody that we knew from, I believe, an Epic War back in the day. I believe is around the first time I met him, and that's probably 2009, 2010. And me and him hit it off. Like, we would just trade like Steve Austin impersonations back and forth and just talk shit. And it was like, we always, I wrestled him, I believe, in one match, but we got along so well behind the scenes, and that's kind of rare because I have my select group of people and I don't really broaden past that. I'm very, like I said, I'll joke around, but when I'm at the show, when it comes time, for the curtain and it's time to go out soon, I'm pretty intense and focused. But him and I always got along. AJ Wright, Adam, whenever he's involved, I feel better. It's almost like a comfort to have him there because he's literally been there like since biology class in junior year. Like, he came out to me and said, "Nice shirt." And I thought he was like being a smart ass because no one likes wrestling in high school, right? And it was like a vengeance shirt. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I was like, "Prick." But it turned out he was a huge fan. So like, that was like the initial. And like, he was there in the ring. Like, he helped me, set up the ring countless times, and he would be in there training. And he's trained a lot in wrestling. He never did have his first match for just various reasons. He had some injuries as well. And, shows would cancel and stuff. You know how independent wrestling is. So unfortunately, he never got his match, but his match is coming up in a couple days. So he's getting it.
Oh, absolutely. And, once again, really appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast with us. We really, really appreciate it. And also, this Sunday, a big match, you, AJ Wright, and Eric Cross will go against Brandon Gatz and the SoCal Crazy. Tell us real quick, what are your thoughts on it?
So Brandon Gatson is another guy. So I wrestled him in Vegas, and I listened to a podcast that he did with the guys in Vegas, and they were talking about his favorite matches and his least favorite matches at Vegas. And selfishly, I was like, oh, maybe he'll give me the rub because I know we're wrestling here in a couple weeks. And that was the initial. I was like, oh, maybe, And then in the podcast, he said, I wrestled Rick, but I don't really remember. I think I liked it. And the promoter in the podcast said, yeah, but Rick wasn't Rick. Rick was dealing with all of his injuries, and he wasn't at his top or his standard, I guess. And that really stuck with me. You know, I just said, like, I owe Adrian Quest a rematch.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt with Brandon. I was like, okay, if Brandon doesn't remember if it was good or not, then it was shit. Which is funny because I watched the match and I actually liked it a lot. And for me to like the match, I'm like, yeah, it was good. It was all right. And so for me, I felt like, okay, well, this match, I haven't been in the ring. I haven't trained. I didn't step foot in a wrestling ring. I didn't bump. Before the show, I didn't bump. Didn't train. Didn't run the ropes. Didn't go in there. And I said, but I owe it to Brandon to have a good match. So
yeah, I mean, Rich and I loved it. So
yeah,
I mean, we
that's
loved
what counts.
it.
That's what counts.
I know the fans loved it. They were cheering for us. So.
All that matters. All that matters.
But,
so again, I feel like I owe Brandon, SoCal Crazy and me go way back. He was one of my first trainers. Like I said, I trained Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He was the class on Friday that nobody wanted to be at. That promo I did last month, 100% truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those squats and all those push-ups and all those fireman's carries that he had us run up hills with people on our back and squat with people, and I had to carry the biggest guy because I was the smallest guy, and I love that shit. I'm like, okay, only 2 people are here. Well, you just lost because I'm going to beat you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Especially back then, like me just starting out, the competitiveness was off the charts. I was like, well, this is my class now, and so I loved those classes. I loved training with him. That was mine and SoCal Crazy's first ever singles match, believe it or not. And funny bit of history, the first time we were supposed to wrestle for New Wave, I ended up no-showing that event because West Coast Wrestling Company was running that same night.
Mm.
And I was planning to do both. And New Wave told me at the time I would not be able to do both. And I said, well, if you're making me choose, then my choice is already made. I won't be there. And I always felt really bad for SoCal Crazy because I wanted that match. He was my trainer. I felt I kind of disrespected him, but I also had to stand up for what I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, down the line, I'll make it up like I always do. Somehow, some way, I'll make it up. And I feel like last month we made it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that I felt like that was a pretty good match for not ever wrestling. I think we wrestled one tag match before, but pretty much, especially in the last 10 years, we had not seen each other, we had not talked, we had not trained. So I mean that was important.
Oh yeah, because I remember even Adam told me, he's like, this is the first time they ever been in a match before.
Absolutely.
So
yep.
And like I said, that match even delivered even more as Gatson, because like with the match with SoCal Crazy, it was amazing, watching that match. And now with this Sunday, I'm really excited because again,
with both
AJ, both of them, you and AJ Wright, Aaron Cross, is gonna be really exciting. And I can't wait for the match again, guys. This Sunday at the Wheelhouse in Hammond, California. The West Coast Wrestling Company presents Conflict Resolution as Ric Ellis will be in the main event with AJ Wright and Aaron Cross teaming up and going against Brandon Gatz and SoCal Crazy. Tickets are still available at Eventbrite, and also you can pick tickets at the door. And again, it's a event you're not going to want to miss. And again, Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on. And is there a message or anything you want to plug in, social media for the listeners out there?
I believe I'm Ric Ellis on anywhere, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You could find me. It's kind of my personal page, but I don't care. I mean, it's a blend. I mean, if you're promoting yourself, you should promote it anyway. So it doesn't matter. I don't understand the people that are trying to promote, but their profile is private all the time. It just doesn't make sense. Because my wife will be like, "Hey, well, you're posting stuff that's personal," and I was like, "Well, I'm an open book for the most part. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what it is. If I don't want you to know, you won't know, but I won't be put in that situation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if I accept your friend request, that means I don't care if you see my shit or not. So like I said, one day I might be privileged enough to write a book like the Young Bucks did, and all this shit's going to be out there anyway. So why not see it now?
Yeah, true. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much, Rick, for taking the time. Really an honor to have you on, and really happy. And I can't wait for this Sunday, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Thank you very much for your guys' time. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. And again, thank you so much for you guys listening for Championship Online Podcast with my co-host Rich, and I'm Alex. We'll see you guys next time here at Championship Online.